The room fell silent the moment those words left her lips. Every fork stopped halfway to a plate, every conversation faded into the background, and every pair of eyes landed on me as my best friend's mother looked across the dinner table with the warmest smile I had ever seen. There was no laughter in her eyes, no hint that she was joking. She simply waited, calm and hopeful, as though she had already imagined the answer. In that unexpected moment, my heart carried years of memories that I had tried so hard to ignore. What would you have done if someone suddenly asked you to face the truth you had been hiding from yourself? Would you have answered honestly, or would fear have stolen your voice just as it stole mine? My name is Matthew, and I grew up in a quiet neighborhood outside Nashville, Tennessee. My best friend was Jacob, and we had been inseparable since elementary school. His family became my second family long before I understood how much that would matter. My own father passed away when I was 12, leaving my mother to work endless shifts at a local hospital just to keep food on our table. There were weeks when our refrigerator looked almost empty, yet she never complained. During those difficult years, Jacob's mother, Rebecca, quietly stepped into my life without trying to replace anyone. She packed an extra lunch every time Jacob came to school, invited me for Sunday dinners, and celebrated every birthday I thought no one remembered. She never treated me like a guest. She treated me like someone who belonged. Life changed quickly after high school. Jacob joined the Air Force and was stationed across the country. I stayed behind, taking construction jobs during the day while attending community college at night. Rebecca remained in the same little blue house filled with old family photographs and memories that refused to fade. She often invited me over for dinner because she knew eating alone reminded both of us of the people we had lost. My mother eventually became seriously ill, and Rebecca drove me to hospitals, waited through long appointments, and sat beside me during nights when I believed everything was falling apart. Sometimes kindness arrives so quietly that you don't realize it is changing your entire life until years later. When my mother passed away, I felt completely alone. The funeral ended, friends returned to their routines, and the sympathy cards slowly stopped arriving. Rebecca was the only person who continued checking on me every single week. She brought homemade meals, reminded me to keep working toward my degree, and refused to let grief convince me that my future had ended. Looking back now, I realize she carried her own loneliness too. Her husband had passed away several years earlier after a long illness, and Jacob rarely managed to come home because of military deployments. We were two people carrying different heartbreaks beneath the same roof every Sunday evening. Months became years, and our friendship grew into something impossible to describe. There was never anything inappropriate between us. We simply became each other's safest place. We repaired broken fences together, volunteered at church food drives, and spent holidays making sure neither of us celebrated alone. Neighbors sometimes smiled knowingly when they saw us planting flowers in the front yard or laughing while repainting the porch. I always brushed those looks aside because I believed people misunderstood genuine kindness. Rebecca was nearly 15 years older than I was, and I convinced myself that love could never exist where everyone expected only friendship. Then everything changed with one phone call. Jacob returned home after nearly 6 years away. I worried he might think I had somehow taken his place in the family, but instead he hugged me tightly and thanked me for standing beside his mother when he couldn't. That single embrace lifted a weight I had carried for years. During the following weeks, we spent time together like old friends who had simply paused life instead of missing it. Yet I noticed something different in Rebecca. She smiled often, but there was sadness hidden behind her eyes whenever conversations drifted toward the future. One rainy evening Jacob asked me a question that caught me completely off guard. He admitted he had watched us care for each other for years and wondered why we both kept pretending there was nothing deeper beneath the surface. His words unsettled me because they echoed thoughts I had buried countless times. I respected Rebecca too much to risk destroying the family we had built together. I feared what people would say. I feared disappointing Jacob. Most of all, I feared losing the one person who had never abandoned me. Several months later, Jacob announced he was getting married. Friends and relatives traveled from across the country to celebrate. Watching him begin a new chapter filled everyone with joy, yet I quietly realized I had no idea where my own life was heading. During the rehearsal dinner, surrounded by laughter and familiar faces, Rebecca looked happier than I had seen her in years. Then, without warning, she placed her hand gently over mine and asked when we were getting married. She smiled again and softly repeated, "Well, when?" Nobody laughed because everyone sensed the emotion behind the question. She wasn't teasing me. She was asking whether I planned to spend the rest of my life running away from the happiness standing right beside me. For a long moment I couldn't speak. My heart replayed every memory we had shared, every difficult season she had helped me survive, every quiet evening when we had unknowingly become each other's home. I finally realized love had never arrived dramatically. It had grown patiently through sacrifice, loyalty, grief, forgiveness, and countless ordinary days. The strongest relationships are often built so slowly that you only recognize them after they have already become part of your soul. I stood from my chair, looked at Rebecca with tears filling my eyes, and admitted that I had spent years hiding behind fear. I wasn't afraid of loving her. I was afraid of believing someone like her could truly love someone like me. Before I finished speaking, Jacob smiled through his own tears and nodded with quiet approval. The room erupted into applause as Rebecca embraced me with the same warmth that had carried me through the darkest years of my life. We married the following spring in a small white church surrounded by family, neighbors, and friends who had witnessed our journey from quiet companionship to lasting love. There were no grand speeches about destiny or perfect timing. There were only grateful hearts that understood second chances sometimes arrive wearing ordinary clothes. Together we opened a community center dedicated to helping grieving families, because we never forgot how loneliness had nearly defeated us both. Every family we helped reminded us that kindness has a way of returning when we least expect it. Years later, people still asked how our unusual story began. We always smiled because the answer was never about one surprising question at a dinner table. It began the first time someone chose compassion over convenience, loyalty over comfort, and hope over fear. Love did not rescue us overnight. It patiently waited until we found the courage to stop running from it. Before you go, tell us in the comments, have you ever realized too late that someone had quietly loved and supported you all along? If this story truly touched your heart, please like, comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us how powerful kindness, second chances, and genuine love can be.